Welcome back to Movie Bite. Today, we descend into a world on the edge of collapse, a 2016 action, drama, horror film called The Thinning. Spoilers lie ahead, so tread carefully. In a not-so-distant future, the United Nations forces every nation to slash its population by 5% each year to fight overpopulation. In America, that mandate takes a chilling form. Every student sits a single standardized exam, and those who fall short do not get a second chance. They are executed. The test carries a cold, clinical name, the 10-2-41, also known simply as the Thinning. In Austin, Texas, the countdown has begun. 18 hours remain until the Thinning. Simon sits with his older sister, Lena, hunched over a desk in his room as she desperately tries to drill the answers into him. Nearby, their younger siblings, Kareen and Joey, remain lost in their games, blissfully unaware of the tension in the air. Simon's frustration boils over. He insists there is no possible way he can learn enough in time. Desperate, he turns to Lena, exchanging money for something far more dangerous than a study guide, a contact lens rigged to cheat. He slips it into his eye, and the answers to his math problems flicker to life before him. Lena warns him sternly that the lens must be destroyed the moment the test ends. No trace can remain. Then her phone rings. It is Dr. Perkesh, calling with unsettling news. Their mother is attempting to check herself out of the hospital, against every medical warning. Lena begs the doctor to stall her, then turns to her siblings with urgency in her voice. They have to go now. At the hospital, Lena arrives just in time to catch her mother mid-signature, about to walk out against doctor's orders. The physician pulls Lena aside and the truth lands heavily. Her mother is not improving, she is fading. There is nothing left to treat, only comfort left to offer. Meanwhile, across the city at the governor's mansion, the clock ticks down. 12 hours remain. Blake slips past a pair of bodyguards lining the hallway. He casually offers to bring them something from the kitchen. They wave him off. The moment their backs are turned, Blake vanishes out a side door and slides into his car, where someone is already waiting. His girlfriend, Ellie. She startles him, teasing that her little trick never fails to catch him off guard. Blake swears this time is different. This time it is real, and the playful mood fades as the weight of tomorrow settles between them. Ellie refuses to speak of the exam. Instead, she pulls him toward a secret of her own, leading him to the sprawling Bilski mansion, where they slip past the gates and dive into the pool beneath the stars. Afterward, wrapped in the quiet of the car, their kiss is interrupted by a confession. Ellie admits she is terrified of what tomorrow holds. But before either can say more, Vince, one of the governor's bodyguards, catches them and drags Blake straight to his father. Governor Redding does not raise his voice, but his words cut deep. Fun has its place, he says, but timing matters. Ellie, he warns, is a distraction Blake cannot afford, not with tomorrow's test looming and the final exam still waiting next year. After that, he tells his son, there will be time for anything he wants. The conversation ends with an embrace, cold comfort before Redding sends him off. 3 hours remain. A militarized school looms behind chain-link fences, coiled barbed wire, and the unblinking eyes of cameras. Students march toward the compound in silence, watched every step by guards in black masks. In the crowd, Simon collides with another student and his cheating lens tumbles from his hand, lost in the chaos. He scrambles, but it is gone. A guard barks at him to keep moving. There is no time to look back. Blake finds Lena watching the tearful goodbyes between students and their parents. He asks if she has a study guide left. She tells him she gave the last one away. Her friend Kellen eyes the exchange and asks what that was about. Lena brushes it off, insisting she barely knows him. Guards sweep the line for cheating devices, and when one student is caught red-handed, the chase begins, ending with him snared in a net like an animal. Kellen, using his father's security clearance, taps into the surveillance feed and quietly forwards it to a reporter he claims to know, a woman named Wendy Banks. He admits he has her email, though she has never once replied to his tips. Inside, Blake tries to steady a trembling Ellie. 15 minutes remain. The gates slam shut. The school is sealed. The students file into their classrooms as teachers recite the rules one final time. Miss Birch tells her class she is proud of them, that the questions ahead are difficult but never designed to trick them. There is always a chance, she reminds them. Down the hall, Mr. Glass delivers the same rules with a colder edge, insisting the test is nothing more than an accurate measure of ability. Then he gives the order to begin. The lights dim. Each student lifts a tablet, its glow the only light on their faces as the exam begins. The teachers issue their warnings. 1 minute remaining, then silence. The test is over. As results begin to load, the room fractures into visible dread. Students squirm, weep, brace themselves. Kellen sits among them, his fear plain on his face. Then the names begin. One by one, the failures are called, and one by one, students are pulled from the room. Some go quietly, others beg. Some must be forced. Kellen exhales in relief he has passed. Ellie has not. The survivors are ushered toward the recreation room to celebrate, but Lena's eyes are fixed elsewhere on Simon being led away among the condemned. Blake, frantic, calls his father, pleading for Ellie's life to be spared. His father refuses, insisting the law cannot bend, not even for him. Blake's fury erupts. He slams a locker, then sprints after the guards, swinging a fire extinguisher at one of them. He screams at Ellie to run while the guards are distracted, but the crowd swallows her and she is caught before she can escape. 1 year passes. The next test looms, 24 hours away. Lena sits at a table with her 2 younger siblings, surrounded by packed boxes. In Joey's hands is a pamphlet, a quiet, devastating confirmation. Their mother is gone. Miss Birch arrives with a casserole and gentle words, trying to comfort Lena as Corrine prepares to face her very first exam. Across town, Blake trains alone in his room, a photograph of Ellie still pinned above his bed, a wound that has never closed. He picks up a tablet and begins recording, his voice steady as he says that if anyone is watching this, it means he is already dead. 3 hours remain. Lena quizzes Corrine one final time on their walk to school, then pulls her into a tight embrace before sending her through the gates. At the mansion, Governor Redding finalizes plans for a major announcement with Vince at his side, confirming every detail is in place. Then he turns his attention to his son. He tries, again, to convince Blake that nothing could have been done for Ellie. Blake refuses to hear it and walks away. On his way to school, Vince notices him slipping a mysterious package into a mailbox. Lena and Kellen reunite outside the school, both aware this is their final test, the one that decides everything. Kellen confesses his nerves but tells Lena she has nothing to fear, not with a mind like hers. Still, her thoughts are elsewhere, consumed not by her own fate but by fear for Corrine. As they head inside, they cross paths with Wade, a hulking quarterback busy tormenting a smaller student, and they quietly wonder how someone so cruel has survived this long. 15 minutes remain. The school locks down once more. At the mansion, Vince approaches Governor Redding with something urgent, the very package Blake had tried to mail. Inside is Blake's tablet, holding the recording of a confession, a plan to fail the exam deliberately. In the video, Blake warns his father that if he truly stands behind this system, then he must be willing to watch it consume his own son. Redding erupts, demanding his son be brought home immediately, but the lockdown makes that impossible. He hurls a chair across the room in rage, then orders the remaining guard to leave him alone. Inside the facility, Blake waits for his exam to begin as a dark-haired girl named Sarah stares at Mr. Glass, desperate for any flicker of recognition. She had slept with him, hoping it would buy her a passing score. He refuses to meet her eyes. In a classroom filled with younger children, Miss Cole prepares to show her students a video before their very first test. It comes from a company called Asuru Global, an animated Earth explaining in bright, cheerful colors why the exam exists at all, a solution to overpopulation. The video lists how other nations have handled the crisis, some eliminating their elderly, others restricting births, but insists that America alone allows only its brightest minds to remain, a nation reborn through intelligence. The failed are reframed not as victims, but as noble contributors, helping heal a suffering planet. Miss Cole steps outside for a moment alone, and a guard offers to take over if she cannot continue. She refuses and returns to her students just as the video ends, the children applauding what they do not yet understand. She tells them it is time for the exciting test they have practiced so hard for. Down the hall, the older students begin their own exam. In the control room, Mason King watches over the entire operation, then answers a call that pulls his attention away. Blake finishes early, and Mr. Glass takes notice. Among the younger children, a boy named Nathan raises his hand for help, but Miss Cole is forbidden from assisting him. She can only urge him to do his best. When the test ends, she instructs the children to rise and follow whoever calls their name. The list of failures begins. Nathan, Sarah, Lena, but not Blake. In the control room, Mason phones the mayor to confirm the transfer when exactly as planned, Blake is safe. The mayor gives the final approval. The thinning may proceed. Blake watches, helpless, as the failed children are marched away. Miss Birch races to intercept a guard, insisting there must be some mistake, that Lena is the finest student she has ever taught. The guard checks with his superiors, but the answer comes back unchanged. Lena must go. In her final moment, the teacher pulls her clothes and presses a keycard into her palm, whispering that there is always a chance, urging her to run. In the recreation room, the survivors celebrate, music and laughter filling the air as they eat and dance. Miss Birch notices Mr. Glass flirting with yet another dark-haired student, a pattern too familiar to ignore. Elsewhere, Governor Redding steps onto a stage for the announcement of his career. He speaks of everything he has accomplished, the difficult, necessary choices only a true leader could make. At the school, his speech plays on a screen inside the party. Blake sees his father's face and walks out. As the governor continues, insisting the thinning is not barbaric but a bold step toward innovation, the failed children are being herded down a corridor. They are stripped of their belongings and told to prepare for decontamination. Lena hides the stolen keycard inside her mouth. Meanwhile, Blake moves quietly through the school's hidden passages as on every screen his father announces his run for president. The failed children are dressed in plain new clothes and led into a room lined with rows of chairs. One by one, they are restrained and the guards draw their syringes. Panic ripples through the room. In the hallway, Blake fakes an injury to lure a guard close, then knocks him unconscious. He presses forward toward the control room, slipping inside the moment Mason steps away. He tries the terminal, but it demands a password he does not have. Instead, he kills the power to the entire school, just as Mason discovers his unconscious guard. Chaos erupts. Restraints fail, and the failed children scatter as guards scramble to regain control. In the confusion, Lena slips free, using Miss Birch's stolen keycard to unlock her escape. Mason orders Kellen's father, Victor Wood, pulled from the party and rushed to the control room to restore power, telling the other guests it is nothing more than a minor outage. Meanwhile, Mason checks on the recaptured children. He asks if a head count has been taken. It has not. That is when they realize Lena is missing. A guard spots her near an exit, but she introduces herself calmly as Miss Birch, claiming she called security after spotting a student fleeing down the stairwell. The instant his back is turned, she strikes. Blake arrives just in time, and together they overpower the guard. Alone at last, Lena and Blake speak, and Lena insists there is no possible way she failed. Blake finally admits the truth. He failed on purpose, but his father pulled strings to save him. The pieces click into place. Something is deeply, dangerously wrong. When Blake accidentally triggers an alarm, they scramble into a vent to disappear from sight. Mason decides the school will remain sealed until answers are found, even as the deadline for anxious parents outside comes and goes. Word reaches him of a second guard attacked, this one by someone posing as a teacher. He orders every teacher on staff rounded up and brought in for questioning. Crawling through the vents, Lena confesses everything to Blake, the cheating devices, the desperate students she sold them to. Blake's judgment is sharp until she reveals the truth. It was never greed, it was her mother's medical bills, and even that had not been enough to save her. Blake softens, ashamed of his assumptions. They press onward through the vents, aiming for the server room. Outside, Governor Redding's live interview is abruptly interrupted by news of the prolonged shutdown. He fumbles for an answer, insisting everything will be resolved shortly, though the cracks in his composure are impossible to miss. Mason lines up every teacher, demanding identification and keycards. Redding calls in, demanding immediate answers, his fury barely restrained. Above him, Blake loses his footing and crashes through a vent into a pool below. Lena dives in without hesitation, dragging him to the surface and reviving him with desperate breaths. They change into dry clothes from a nearby locker, turning away from each other for a fleeting moment of privacy before disappearing back into the vents. In the recreation room, restless students grow bold enough to confront the guards, and one is beaten down without mercy. Kellen captures it all on his phone, sending the footage straight to Wendy. Lena and Blake finally reach the server room, but the stolen keycard slips from her pocket and falls out of reach below the vent. Forced to improvise, they raid a science classroom for a magnet to fish it back up. The noise draws a guard's attention. Lena barely slips back into the vent in time, leaving Blake exposed inside the room. Tries to hide, but he is caught. Moments later, as Lena continues fishing for the key, a guard notices and reaches for it himself, only to reveal himself as Blake, disguised in a stolen uniform. He tells her he is heading toward the thinning chamber. In the holding room, Miss Birch suggests she and Mr. Glass share a drink, and amid the flirtation, she quietly lifts his keycard. She then presents her own ID alongside his stolen keycard to Mason, deflecting suspicion entirely onto him. With no keycard to produce, Mr. Glass suddenly becomes the prime suspect. Meanwhile, Lena reaches the server room and finds a terminal, but her keycard alone is not enough. Mason's password is required. She reaches out to Kellen for help, only to find him offline. Kellen finally sees her message the instant his father restores power to the building. He sends her footage of Mason typing his password, letting her steal it and break in. Her first instinct is to check on Corrine, and relief washes over her, and 86% she passed. Then she checks her own score, 98%, yet marked as failed. The numbers only grow more damning. Wade passed with a mere 42% and Blake passed with just 15%. When she checks Ellie's file, the truth cuts deeper, failed, despite an 88%. On every screen, Governor Redding claims Lena attacked and killed 2 guards after her failure, branding her a fugitive responsible for the entire shutdown. Meanwhile, Wendy finally watches the footage Kellen sent of the guards' brutal assault, and something does not add up. The official story is unraveling. She responds to Kellen at last, and the footage goes public. The moment Lena realizes Kellen leaked material from inside the school, she sends him the falsified scores. Mason and Victor spot her on the security feed and she bolts. Elsewhere, Blake reaches the thinning chamber and tries to bluff the guards into releasing the failed students, but they answer only to Mason, forcing him into a desperate fight. Lena is finally cornered and captured, insisting she can prove she passed, but Mason sends her straight to the chamber anyway, where she finds Blake already restrained. Kellen, meanwhile, receives Lena's proof, both her score and Ellie's, and forwards it immediately to Wendy. Wendy breaks the story live, revealing the documents proving the exam had been rigged. Lena, the highest scoring student in the entire school, was marked as failed, while Blake, the governor's own son, passed despite the lowest score of anyone tested. At the mansion, Vince urges Governor Redding to end this now and release Lena, but Redding insists there is still one final move to make. Mason calls for approval to begin the thinning. Redding denies it, ordering the list revised first. Once the changes are made, Lena is released and told she has passed after all. She rushes to Blake and kisses him before guards pull her away, and Blake is forced into the very chair she just left. Wade is dragged in as well. Panic spreads through the room as the guards move in with their syringes. Blake's eyes close, consciousness slipping away, and at last the lockdown lifts. Outside, Lena collapses into her little sister's arms, tears streaming down her face as Miss Birch joins them. Nearby, Kellen embraces his father, both faces flooded with relief. But for the parents whose children never walk out, only grief remains. Wendy's broadcast continues, revealing that Mason King has been taken into custody over his role in the falsified scores, while suspicion toward Redding quietly fades once the public learns his own son was among the failed. Redding steps forward, promising to personally investigate the scandal, and uses his son's failure as proof he is no different from the very families he governs, a man of the people after all. Far away, a massive truck rolls toward an unmarked facility. The failed students, Blake among them, are lowered by elevator into its depths, revealing a hidden factory, the very place where the testing tablets are built, and where the thinning's forgotten victims are put to work, out of sight and out of mind. Make sure to subscribe to Movie Bite and turn on notifications, because the next story might be the one you never see coming.